That particular bolt I can't show you a close-up of. That is, that's full of a lot of blood. Literally blood pooled around, so when I go to weld it, it's gonna mix right in. I say we send it. Oh. Welcome to the shop. I'm Jared, and this is the Questionable Garage. And a lot of you might be asking, Jared, how did you get into this position? Well, I crawled through the opening and sat on the floor. But a little bit more serious of an answer is, 3 years ago, I saw a poor, neglected car sitting in my friend's workshop, and it just so happened to be my favorite dream muscle car. A 70 B-body Mopar. This particular one is a Plymouth Sport Satellite. The full dressed up version would be a Roadrunner. I kind of like that it wasn't, and I bought it. And it turned out that I should have looked at it a lot closer. Yeah, the patchwork wasn't very good. Oh, you guys don't mean the whole story. You understand why we are this deep into a Plymouth Sport Satellite, rebuilding it, and I love it and all that. You're trying to figure out how I'm sitting on a floor when the last thing you guys saw was absolutely no floors in this thing. Well, let me tell you, it's been a week and a half. A lot of work, a lot of grinding, a little bit of blood, but let's do a fun little time warp and get you guys started into the adventure that is getting the floors in and finishing all of the metalwork. I can't believe I'm saying that. Finishing the major metalwork. All right, so before we do any sanding, cutting, anything, we have this floor pan in place, and what we want to do to make sure we get all our holes in the right spot, come down, you can use paint, whatever. I'm using a blue Sharpie, and you want to trace all of your under panels here, your reinforcements. You know, obviously we got to fix a little bit of damage here and there, but you come through and do this. You have all your marks, and then you drill your spot welds. Just come around. This I still need to straighten a little bit more. It's a little pushed up from where someone floor jacked it. Also in our final metal work, we got to do stuff like that. But yeah, you come around. Remember, this doesn't touch here, so you're gonna do a little mark there, and then line that up. And then again, and just another little mark there. Little mark there, and then you trace it all around. So you do that for all of those, and then you pull it back out, drill all those holes, sand it, prep it, and put it back in again, and then it won't come out again. And then we just do that. If there's any question why I'm deciding to also do that floor pan, you can kind of see it right there, all of that light coming through. We'll figure it out. Oh, lunch is here. No drink, no fries again. If you're tired of being let down every time your food delivery shows up, let today's sponsor Factor ensure you're gonna have a good lunch. Now, if you're somehow not familiar with what exactly Factor is, Factor are ready to heat and eat meals that take only 2 minutes in the microwave. They're fresh, never frozen, and delivered right to your door. All of their meals are chef crafted and dietitian approved. Plus they have meals that fit into just about every dietary need. Calorie smart, high protein, vegan, keto, whatever you're looking for, they probably have a meal that's gonna work for you. Every week they have at least 35 meals for you to select from, delivered right to your door. And not only do they have the meals, they have over 60 snacks, shakes, and juices available for you to pick and add on. So if you're halfway through your day and not quite ready for your lunch, you've got a nice juice, smoothie, or snack ready to go that you know is going to be delicious. Prep is incredibly easy. Pull it out of the cardboard slit, poke a couple holes in the top of it, throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and you have got a fresh, delicious meal ready to eat. So if you're tired of relying on a stranger to bring you overpriced fast food, go ahead and give Factor a try. The only thing you gotta worry about Factor is your coworker stealing the meal. Kevin, stop it. Stop stealing everyone's lunches, seriously, it's rude. So if you're ready to ditch fast food and have a delicious lunch for a change, or even dinner, head on over to factor75.com/50questionable and use code 50questionable on checkout. You're gonna save half off on your first box and get free shipping. Seriously, I absolutely love these meals. The wife loves these meals. They're easy to prepare, and you just gotta keep them away from Kevin. Half off your first box and free shipping. Code 50questionable, factor75.com. QR code, link down below. Enjoy your food. Well, all right, let me explain what you've seen me doing to all of the floor pans. Well, not quite all of them yet. We still have the front floor pan to go, but you'll notice we have a lot of holes and dots in here. This is getting it ready for Rosette welding when we put it back into the car. Now, again, these factory would have been spot welded. It takes a really big fancy tool with giant arms to be able to reach back through and re-spot weld a car. So the most common way we end up rebuilding it is how we did all of the patch panels in the A-pillar is Rosette welding or plug welding. They're not exactly interchangeably, but when you're talking about the work you're doing, it's used interchangeably. Now, to give you an idea why this is just a tremendous amount of work, I counted just one panel, 55 holes. 47 holes, 137 holes, and that is not including the about 20 per side where the wheel tub is going to weld into here and where the little top part of the trunk panel will weld into there. So just in our rear seat section, that is 137 welds plus 20, so we're 177 plus almost 200 welds on this one panel alone. And we haven't even done the big floor yet. We've not even done this yet. I'm gonna guess we're gonna have 600-ish welds by the time we're done with both the main floor pan and the rear floor pan. It's a lot. So that is why, floor pans is a very difficult thing. Now, I'm preparing the floor pans, but something we need to get in and do, we're walking slowly towards the car, I'm trying not to trip, walk and look at the same time, is we need to finish preparing this. Now, most all of this is ready. You can see where we've got things sand down. We need to do a little more prep work there. We need to do some more prep work in here. But we also need to go through, and where I made some mistakes and other people made mistakes, we need to weld this back. Now, a slot like that, we're probably gonna MIG weld, sand that back down. These little tiny holes, we're gonna MIG weld those together. But there is one spot, I wanna try a couple things with the new XTool, both the cutting function and welding function. So when we come into here, that little panel there, I thought I had it good enough, I didn't, and I ripped. So I could pull this back and try to weld it back. I still might do that, I don't know, I'm thinking. My other plan is we're gonna cut this out right along here and then just come in and laser weld the new piece. This type of weld is really good for laser welding. But regardless, in here, we need to finish preparing, making sure all the old metal's off, this little bit of rust is clear, and it's ready for final assembly. Also, I want to show kind of a good trick that I have that works. I've seen other people do it. There's a couple different ways of knowing where you need to mark your holes. So we pre-fit everything and go around with a Sharpie. Then we measure out our width of the flange that this is going to, and that just make all of your guidelines. Make a road map so that way you're able to get all of these welds where they need to be. Now the next big step is I need to sand all of that and put a little bit of zinc primer on the bottom all of it. So we're gonna get these panels done and ready, moved out, and then we're gonna get started getting the big floor pan prepped and ready. Ooh, I get to do the hand cam. So we're getting close to removing the rest of our rear seat floor. We want to preserve as much of this section of metal as possible. It is minor surface rust, overall a good piece. And we really don't want to have to just keep, because once we do this, all the floors have been replaced. Granted, those back there, not very good. Now, one thing you'll notice is I have been mostly using the belt sander. This is a real common way. That's how I did the whole right side. But that ends up leaving little bits of grooves and dishes. Not a problem, really. But I had a friend recommend switching over to a bolt, either a full round one or a cylinder tip, to grind out these spot welds. It's going to work really good, especially considering we want to keep this top metal as intact as possible. We can go straight down on each of the welds, and it ends up making it a whole lot cleaner. So that's kind of a fun trick. I'll do one or two live action. We'll get this section ripped out, then we got to rip the little sides out, and it's a lot of fine sanding, and then I'll show you the welding we got to do. I will say the only downside to this is you get hit with lots of little fine metal, so that's a little bummer. But so make sure you got your ears in, but basically you just make your little dimples, and then you come back in a second with your breaker, lift that whole seam apart, and you are golden. This is the last big piece of metal, fingers crossed, to be removed. We still have all of the little trimmings and touch-ups to happen, but barring, there's one piece I might change, but this is still bigger. We might be done taking it apart, which is kind of crazy. I will also say this, I'll be very happy when I'm done with the big metal removal, because it always makes such a god-awful mess. Well, all right, we have our floor pans just about ready to go in, but we have to get the car ready for the floor pans. Now, it may seem a little confusing that I'm saying we have to do prep work. There's no floor, shouldn't they just go in? Not quite. So that one section, we need to weld that in, get it blended in where the metal was too mangled. We need to get our holes in the firewall here, what we'll rosette weld through. Also, our previous floor pan patches. There's a ton of holes that don't need to be in here. So we need to come through, weld all of those, and get those sanded down. There's a little bit of metal work here to get this a little bit flatter, ready to go. There is the damage here, where when they cut through the floor, they cut that. We've got all of their tiny little X's. Yeah, it's probably okay. We got to fill that hole in. All of those little X's where they're cutting out the spot welds. I can drop a floor pan on top of it and it won't cause a single problem, ever. But I know it's there. So despite all of the time it's gonna take to do little bits of weld and sanding that down, we're gonna do all of it. And then we've got this. That's my fault. Sometimes you make mistakes. That was me kind of being in a hurry. I was just ripping along with the air hammer when we were pulling the floors, and I made a little bit of work for myself. And you know what? It happens. Sometimes you're gonna make a mistake because you're a little impatient or because you didn't look underneath good enough. I didn't plan ahead. I thought I was clear of that brace. It's okay, because we can fix it. So beyond that, we have got this. This is another bit of my fault where I didn't pre-cut the spot weld enough. So now I need to patch that in. This will also be a little tricky because this is galvanized metal. So when I go to weld that, really should have done it for the laser cleaning as well. You guys were right to call me out for that safety. Galvanized, leaded materials, you need a P100 rated or better mask, particulate. But beyond that, all of this is pretty good back here. I have got, where is it? This long slit from the previous removal and from the previous removal. Get all of that patched up and sanded down. And then we can drop our floor pans in and weld 600 welds. And then sand 600 welds. But then we're gonna have a solid floor and we're gonna have a solid car. I can't wait. So you can see we got all the big holes slowly spotted and filled in. We're gonna have to come back and just sand those flush. Got those holes filled, that panel welded in. We're gonna cool it off. We're gonna get a drink, and then yeah, we'll buzz all that down. Then it's just drill a couple holes in the firewall lip, because I'm gonna weld from the outside in. It's gonna be easier than laying on my back and welding up coming this way. And actually I can flange a couple of them. So we'll hit the flanges where we can, making progress. Also, still rocking the Enzo Carbon Creations helmet. I really kind of enjoy it. It's, I don't want to claim it's lighter because it's the forged carbon. He did send a non-forged carbon for a friend. A little bit lighter. The plastic is heavier than the standard, and this is just a little bit heavier than the plastic with the forged, the extra layers. I will say I feel like when my face is in a weld, it does stay a little bit cooler. Plus it looks cool. So appreciate viewers and fans who take the time to make me something extra special, especially when it's really useful. So thank you again for sending that over. And yeah, I'm gonna get a drink, then we're gonna get a grinding disc and get all this stuff knocked down. Most all my holes are where they need to be. One or two extras, but all in all, same thing. Pretty good all the way around. It's gonna line up beautifully. Just gotta pin the firewall and work our way around. All the holes are doing what they should. All right, we are finally there. We're gonna melt these floor pans into the Satellite, and I'm pretty excited. One thing I did off camera is I went ahead and got this front firewall seam pinched down. The main reason I did it off camera is my neighbor Justin had to come up the hill, because even though, like, you know, I have really long arms, I couldn't quite push and fit and get clamps on that side. So Justin was in there as I kind of got this pushed down. So we're gonna actually start on that side. We're gonna hit a couple of our Rosette welds. We need to hammer and dolly that a little bit. Something I'm gonna do that's gonna add some stiffness to the whole car as well is a little bit of stitch welding. Now we're not gonna go as nowhere near the extreme that we did in the Duster, and also doing stitch welding makes future panel removal and replacement much more difficult. Well, our goal is for this not to ever need to get replaced. We're gonna do as much rust treatment as possible so they just can stay together. But what that means is after we do all of our little plugs, we're gonna come back and do about 1-inch welds all along our seams. And what that just does is locks everything in a little bit more and makes the box that much tighter. So AMD doing AMD things and just fitting great all the way around. Also, I'm happy that I was able to, you know, pretty much get all my holes in the right spot. That also works really well. So we're gonna set up a GoPro. I'm gonna start burning in some metal, and then we'll go back to live film when we get inside, because once I get this front pinched down, we're gonna talk a little bit about how I work welding out a floor pan. I'm not an expert, but it's worked really well before in the, the one other time I did it. So clearly it's the right way to go, right? Okay, well, we started off with just real quick, me in the engine bay and saying I was gonna tweak something. And as you can tell by all that welding footage, a whole lot has happened. So let me get you caught up. I initially talked about doing just a little bit of stitch welding. I ended up seam welding the entire firewall. And there's a reason for it. I'm making this my car, not a perfect restoration. By doing that seam weld, I can actually cut that flange way back. And by doing that, it just makes it a little bit easier to work on. A ½ inch doesn't seem like much, but I can promise you from experience on the Duster, ½ inch goes a long way. It's a big deal. But we have got all of our plugged Rosette welds in on our front floor pan, and we're now working on fitting these floor pan extensions. I've just got it loosely pinned to the frame rails, and we're starting to work on getting everything right. I've got a jack lifting the trans tunnel to get that position a little bit closer. So I don't have a reference measurement. Mine was done so poorly I couldn't take any type of pre-measurements off. It looks right, but I'm gonna jump on the computer, do a little bit of digging and see if I can't find some measurements to confirm that is exactly where it needs to be. The rear floor pan is fitting, the rear seat pan is fitting perfectly, so I'm assuming it's right. But rather than, just making an assumption, because you've heard the phrase of what it does to you and me, I'm gonna try to find some information before we send it, because once we weld it in, it's kind of staying there. So I am getting really excited though. It's a lot of welding, but it's almost done. Oh, so graceful. Head and shot. Well, all right, we got batteries charged for our little impact driver. That's kind of what made me decide to just head home. And yes, I'm re-wearing the shirt. It is, it's kind of a sad day. This might finally be the last project for the old Carhartt. When you're doing all these plug welds, you make a lot of sparks and you set a lot of things on fire, and rather than like repeatedly ruin other pieces of clothing, we're just gonna finish up with this one. But considering it is multiple different bleached colors from welding and burns and holes, I think it's earned its retirement. All of the literature I found was pretty useless as far as telling us anything to really measure off of, to make sure all of this lands exactly right. We also then ran into, there was nothing for me to measure when I took it apart because it had been so poorly patched. So what I'm doing is I already kind of positioned it some off camera, but I got my angle finder and I took it
And just did my best to set back and forth. Again, this is a little bit hard to read, but really when you're on the parts that aren't damaged, we're about 3.1 degrees. Come over here, we end up, you know, right around that 3. So then I came here and positioned this floor pan to 3 degrees to match the rocker boxes. I don't know if it's right, but it's how we're doing it. So if you have a mostly intact floor, measure. Do your best to kind of work off of that. I didn't have that luxury, so that's what I'm going off of. I did my best to make sure everything was butted up nice and tight against our frame rails, the rear frame rails. I did loosely fit and make sure this rear section is going to drop in exactly how it should. That's looking good. So my plan is to burn in this piece, and then we'll come back, burn in this piece, and then we'll start fitting in the back here. So feels kind of weird, if I'm being perfectly honest, that it's like kind of so close to done. I also realized I need to find, when I got the floors from AMD, they come with the reinforcements for the seat belts. I don't know where I put them. But yeah, so a mixture of self-tappers, which I don't always love because you put holes in the bottom metal, but whatever. Get it pulled tight, burn things in, make a lot of sparks. Get down tonight, I guess, right? I think that's how the song goes. Probably not. I'm gonna put some music in my ears, and we're going to put in some footwell extensions. All right, we are on to the last big piece of metal to weld into this car, the rear seat well. I've got it roughly drilled in and held in with some tech screws where it needs to be so we can just pick up right away and start welding. We're gonna weld all of our interior perimeters. We are not gonna connect the wheel tubs to this outer lip just yet. Not in this episode, but I'm still gonna call it done when we are done with all of our welding. You'll find out why a little bit later. A hook to get you guys to subscribe. If you're not subscribed, appreciate you hitting that button. I know a lot of you already are. Comment below. Do all the things that help the algorithm. It really helps the channel grow, and it helps us do ridiculous restorations on 1970 satellites. Should anyone do one? Maybe not anyone, but if you love the car, you absolutely should. So I'm gonna get to welding. You're gonna see us go back and forth between welding, a little bit hammering, removing screws, slowly working our way out. That is the best way I personally know. If you have a different tactic that you feel is a little bit better for getting these panels in, share it. Make us all a little bit smarter. I don't claim to be an expert. I got a welder, I got a hammer, and that's about as far as my expertise goes. So, also a dream. There's a dream mixed in there a little bit that I'm gonna have a pretty good muscle car when we're all done with this. So, let's get these final, what was it? 160 welds going. Gotta be careful not to catch too much metal debris in there. Take our time, work our way out slowly. A lot of spot welds, rosette welds, and a prayer. You know, while I'm working through this, I'm remembering a conversation I had with a friend, and I'm kind of curious what your opinion is. It came down to, they said, quitting is one of the easiest things you'll ever do in life. And I don't know that I agree. I feel like giving up, now, let's say I'm being pedantic, but giving up is a whole lot easier than quitting. Giving up means all you're doing is rolling over and saying, I'm done. Quitting is a conscious decision. You're looking at a situation and saying, it's not worth going forward. Be it for practical reasons, there's not a positive outcome, moral reasons, whatever. You're looking at a scenario and you go, I don't want to be here. It's a whole lot different than things being really difficult. Let's say when I found the 15th layer of rust and I just said, well, we'll find a different one. That's giving up. Quitting is knowing a scenario doesn't lead to a positive outcome no matter what you put in. So you pull everything out. And I feel like that's a lot harder than giving up. But let me know what you guys think. That particular bolt I can't show you a close-up of. That is, that's full of a lot of blood. Literally blood pooled around, so when I go to weld it, it's gonna mix right in. I say we send it home. Alright, we'll mostly work this side, so I feel kind of comfortable. It's warm, but I think my butt can go on that side. Ugh. Just make things Kind of nice that all the pre-fitment is still lining up pretty solid for me here. We may be ending up in a different helmet to finish though. Ow! I know people claim DC voltage doesn't shock you, but ow, it does. Sounding solid. So I've got to do that 120 more times. So editor Dwayne, pick something really good to kind of fill the music, and let's get sparky. That montage worked great for you guys. Let me say it still made a lot of dust, and the mask was the right call. So it feels so good though. Like I'm tired, my body hurts. I don't fold up in and out of the car like I used to, but I'm ready to show you. I mean, you kind of saw it in the montage, but oh, we have good floors in the Satellite. No compromises, no silly rust holes, no half-done patches that a mule would have done. It's good. Is it perfect? No, but I did it. Like, most anyone can just write a check to someone, but don't be afraid to do something. This is needed to go to a level out. I had done a floor pan, again, in the duster, but that was just make it work good enough. This is trying to make it nice. There's a big difference, but you can see went through, knocked the big rosettes down. We've got a little bit of sealer on there. It's not the final paint coat. That's just to keep things from rusting, but oh, look at her. It's solid. Now, I will show you one spot we've not welded yet. And I mentioned earlier in the video we weren't gonna do it just yet. And that is this entire flange section through here. Not welded in here yet. Now I'm not gonna play gatekeeper. Mopar people, you might know why that's not welded just yet. I'm gonna sit here and stare at you for 5 seconds, and I want everyone to comment why that's not welded just yet. Mopar people, you're cheating. That's okay. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, I could do Rob Dom thing and just end the video there, but no, we're gonna tell you, I don't like to gatekeep and make all these funny little secrets and inside jokes and stuff. The reason it's not welded yet is I may mini tub it. I'm really torn on that because it affects the rear seat a little bit. I don't know if anyone's gonna sit behind me ever in it, but I'm trying, you know, not to go too crazy. It's easy to fall down the rabbit hole way too crazy. Speaking of duster, we did the mini tub on that. I don't know how easy it'll be for Dwayne to insert some footage, but you cut a big chunk of the floor and move the wheel tub in. So, I haven't decided. And that's where we're kind of at a pause for the Satellite. It's okay, Aaron. So it'll be back. But I'm waiting on, you guys are gonna laugh at me. I'm getting a rotisserie now. We're gonna go for a blasting of all the original metal, a soda blast. And then that's gonna give me time to make my decision. Do I do the one little rust patch on each side, or are we mini tubbing? Now again, mini tubbing, what that does is it lets us get a bigger rear tire. This is meant to be a cruiser. It's gonna have good power, but I'm not looking for an absolute, you know, handling monster. I've got plenty of cars for it. Comfortable interstate cruiser. And you don't need a 305 and back to do that. So, I don't know. What would you guys do if you were building your car? Granted, again, at the end of the day, it's my dream car. I'm doing whatever I want, but I do value your opinions. So comment. It also helps the algorithm. If you made it this far and you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. We do lots of cool stuff. We make lots of questionable choices and build some cool stuff along the way. We've got a couple trucks lined up in a row. Getting the Ferrari truck driving. We got that really cool square body hiding in the back that we're gonna get running and driving. Johnny Rev, our international pickup truck, is getting some really nice suspension. So a lot of really cool stuff to do while our Satellite goes on a field trip. And I gotta clean the shop. We got a lot to do, but appreciate you guys, as always, hanging out while we build some dreams, suffer through a little bit of nightmares, but ultimately end up with some cool stuff. I'm Jared, reminding you guys to always make questionable choices. And remember, questionable choices make legendary builds. We'll see ya.